Neil, walk us down the income ladder here and talk about who potentially could be at risk for paying more.
Right. So put the wealth tax aside, put some of the taxes on capital aside that Senator Warren and other Democrats are talking about. Out there in plain sight has been this idea of changing how Social Security is taxed, how payroll taxes work. Right now, Social Security taxes are capped. It'll be $137,000 next year. Above that level, you don't owe a dime in Social Security payroll taxes. Senator Warren wants to put in a tax of 14.8% over $250,000. There's a Democratic proposal on the Hill, $400,000. Either way, that results in high-income professionals, people in that mid-six-figure range, seeing significantly higher marginal tax rates than they do now.
Those numbers make sense to you?
Yeah, so it's not just 2 cents, and it's not just billionaires. If you make more than $250,000, your federal tax rate under all these plans will be about 55%. Now, if you live in California and New York, your federal tax rate is and state is going to be about 70%. So it's upper middle class, 70%, and that's the part that voters aren't hearing about.
And you can't deduct the state and local income taxes in those high-income states like the one that we're in. So we're at 14% in New York. Add that in New York State. Oh my!
And I think a lot of this polling that shows broad support for Elizabeth Warren's tax plan is really just about the wealth tax as applies to 50 million or more. I think it would be a different result. And Neil, correct me if I'm wrong. If they told people and polled them, would you support it if it were just $250,000 or more, 70%, 55% tax rate? I think you'd see a different polling result.
Yeah, what I do agree with is that there's all these proposals exist kind of in isolation, and you really have to look at them holistically to understand how, for example, Senator Warren would aim to overhaul the entire tax system, not just the wealth tax, not just capital gains taxes, not just Social Security. Put them together, it could add up to some big numbers for a lot of people.
Neil, we keep hearing a couple things. One is that you'd have to go through several hoops to get this into law, obviously turning the Senate blue and so forth. The other is that, given the debate this week, the party still has a natural pull toward the center, and listening to Obama's comments over the past couple of days, that this is not something the market, at least, should worry about. Do you agree?
Look, if you look at the odds, the odds that there's both Senator Warren, Senator Sanders wins the nomination, they win the presidency, Democrats win the Senate. That's a lot of ducks in a row that are lining up, and if you kind of look at all those probabilities together, it's not enormous. That said, I think we see overall the thrust in which the Democratic Party is going. So whenever the Democrats come to power again, it's a different kind of approach than what Obama took. So, so you look at how much taxes came up for Obama during the Obama administration for top earners, 4.6 percentage points on the top marginal rate, another 0.9% on an Obamacare tax. We're talking 2 to 3 times that just on the Social Security piece. It's a different kind of impulse out of the Democratic Party now than it was even 5 years ago.
Neil, at what point do you think that Democrats have the propensity to actually switch parties with higher taxes or the likelihood of higher taxes? Given that, obviously, as you mentioned, other issues have kind of come to focus ever since the Obama presidency in that party. Do you think that, in knowing this, that people will actually switch parties to the Republican side?
So I don't know about that, but I do think we see evidence that high-income Democrats, affluent Democrats in rich suburbs, Westchester County, the Bay Area, they are having kind of issues, taking issue with higher taxes. We see that with the SALT deduction debate going on right now. We've seen that with some things on climate taxes, carbon taxes. Nobody wants to pay more money in taxes. The question is, how much are these kind of progressive goals that affluent liberals believe in? How much are they really willing to pay for that? I think we won't know that until some of these issues really become subject of a real debate, not just a kind of swirling in the atmosphere type of debate.
Robert, I think it is worth pointing out. I mean, we in New York here, we're already at 52-something%, right? That's not dissimilar from what Europeans pay.
Right.
And they get free health care and usually free education.
Right.
What do we get?
We get a big tax bill. If you add all these things together, it's a really important point that Neil makes is you can't just look at the wealth tax. You have to look at all these things combined. We would be the highest tax country in the world, exceeding Denmark. And by the way, we don't have all the services that Denmark has in the U.S. So that's a really good point. And I think voters just have to know truly what the choice is when they're talking about Warren's tax plan, what these plans add up to for your tax bill and the bottom line, as opposed to just talking about 2% on billionaires.
Finally, Neil, I wonder how much currency you're putting into things that have been floated on the Republican side, namely that Kudlow's at least looking at ways to cut middle class taxes even further?
I mean, it's hard to say, given that Republicans had full control for 2 years and didn't really put forward any plan, anything specific. It's hard to. It's kind of like water. You're trying to get your arms around what might actually be on the table. We already have very large deficits. Anything involving the middle class could really blow out the deficit if you cut taxes further. So I kind of have a wait till you see it type of attitude on that.
Robert, real quick, you just said 2% on billionaires, but it's 2% anything over 50 million.
That's correct. 6% on
6% on billionaires.
Right. And what the most voters and at her campaign appearances here is 2% on billionaires. And it has doubled since she even started from 3% to 6%.
To pay for
health care.
Yep.